Hey, Anthony. Well, I think this storm knew that you were coming to me because it's been completely dry here for a few minutes, and we were standing waiting to go live, and right when you guys tossed to us, we get the rain starting to come down. But what I wanted to show you here is this packed parking lot at the Emergency Operations Center. I mean, they are overflowing onto the street here alongside of it because they have tons of crews out here ready and on standby. We just saw a bucket truck and an ambulance leave as well, so that obviously they are responding to any kind of situations that do arise. Because Jeannie was just talking about the Sydney Linear Bridge, I figured I'd talk about it a little bit as well. We're hoping to get down there after we're done here because GDOT, they weren't messing around. They told us last night they were going to be closing that bridge at 10 a.m. So that, as you mentioned, is the one bridge that's closed. So getting to Jekyll Island could be a little tricky for folks in this area, but the causeway going out to St. Simons, that is still open. Of course, a much lower bridge, so keeping an eye on that though. Hopefully it will not flood so that people can get to and from St. Simons, especially if there is an emergency on St. Simons, so they can get some of these crews that I just talked about, all these crews here, out that way. So we were driving around Brunswick today. This morning I was standing at our hotel with the old dad stance, hands on the hips, and one thing that I noticed was that, looking out the window, was that there were a lot of palm fronds blowing through the mall parking lot at the Embassy Suites that we were at. And, you know, if you didn't get a chance to trim your trees, especially your palm trees, and those are tricky, they're way up there, well, there's a chance that the storm did it for you. And I know that those things, they're sharp, they're heavier than they look, so just keep an eye out if you do see any palm fronds blowing around, because there were a lot right around the mall. And, you know, when I'm covering a hurricane close to the beach, usually I see that sea foam kind of creeping in. Well, that sea foam here in Brunswick has been replaced with moss, piles and piles of moss all around downtown that we've seen as we've been driving around, with some branches that have come down as well. So keep an eye on that. Now, one thing I did want to talk about before we wrap up here is Glynn Academy. We had a few folks reach out with some concerns about the roof at Glynn Academy. Of course, that's one of the oldest buildings in town, probably one of the oldest ones in the state. We did check in with the EOC here because they did have a marker on their map that there was an emergency there. They took that marker off. They said that it is not weather related, the situation with the roof there, but certainly something to keep an eye on, especially if we get any more rain, if there is an issue with the roof at Glynn Academy. But we went by there. Hard to see what the roof looks like from the ground, but looks okay, at least at this point. So we're standing by here in Glynn County, and we will be working, as I mentioned, down toward the Linear Bridge, because that's where, with the marsh there that we've seen, usually the water will start to come up a little bit. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. And if that water does come up on the causeway, they mentioned that if there's a debris or water that gets up onto the causeway, that could be when they start to look at closing that, or if the winds really start to pick up. If it's too dangerous for emergency vehicles, it's going to be too dangerous for the rest of us. So we may not make it out to St. Simons Island. We were out there last night and saw a lot of businesses that have packed in sandbags there, or they've put up some sort of, you know, way to block out the water. So hopefully they will be able to withstand any kind of surge that they do see. But for now, we're going to wrap up here in Glynn County. Zach Wilcox, First Coast News, on your side.
All right.